गुरुर्मूर्ति पूजामूलं गुरुपदम् मन्त्रमूलं गुरुर्वाक्यम् मोक्षमूलं गुरुर्कृपा ॐ श्री गुरवे नमः।
My good wishes for them is that they should many more things than money. Money is only one of the important things. Money is a necessary evil, like a good tonic. One capsule is good. You take 3 capsules, you're done. So one of the there are many things which are necessary evils. The electricity is a necessary evil. We cannot do without it, but it is dangerous to go close. So, ultimately what the man has to preserve for himself is the balance, free from prejudices, expectations, disappointments, egocentric arrogance. These are all things, I think most of the man's conduct and destruction of an arrogance or an evil attitude, these things lead the man when he goes far, far away from home, where he should not and does not expect anything as a matter of right or favor. If at all he receives anything, it is only a favor. So the man comes down to a level of humility. That is the basic benefit that anyone who crosses the borders of his motherland goes a long distance, he should get it. Normally he would get it. The society may have levels, but the individuals should not claim the levels of the society. You belong to a rich class. So far as you are concerned personally, you should not think you are superior to anybody else. You do belong to a rich class, but that's a fortune conferred on you by the grace of God. In India, the society is divided into regions, religions, levels of casteism. There was a good system of caste at one time. It was an excellent system that worked. Caste was a system at one time. A system is something that works for the good of the society. When the system fails, ism enters. Now there is casteism now rather than caste system, which is why there is this disunity politically, and all people don't look at each other in equal form. And add to the modern concept of earning more and more money is the ultimate goal of life. That man's attention has been diverted from all values to money making. That's of course there's a decline in dharma. But these things are all bound to happen in history. A country is primarily affected by its political conditions, invasions from outside, economic depression, or trouble from a neighbor. They do affect the common peace of life, society. That has happened. I can tell you, comparing India's history with the history of any other country, India is one country that has suffered most from invasions. And India is the only country which has never invaded any other country. Every other country at one time or other had invaded its neighbor. In history, by and large, I can say I am 90% right. Still, India suffered. There has been a decline of moral values, courage, citizenship, and so on. The decline is more than nearly 50% ascribable to the imposed foreign influence. That has not that has struck deep roots into the psyche of the common man in India. Either he is influenced by thinking that the other culture which has invaded him is superior to his own, or he has helplessly surrendered to it. Either way, it's a destruction of the self-respect. Now slowly India hopes to get back its original conscience. India has to get back its original inner conscience revived by remembering the history and things like that. In the present context of things, over the last 100 years, many changes have come. A lot of instability has entered into the public life. Values that were cherished at one time, even 2 centuries ago, have been thrown to the winds. It is a global phenomenon partly, but in that decline of values, decline of self-respect and decline of ancient values, India is the senior most in that. That's definitely that's the truth about history. And when Indians start seeing the world beyond their compound wall, what exists outside, the Indians are supposed to understand their own history vis-a-vis that of the world history. What was my India? What is my India today? What was the world? What is the world outside? These things. Most of their attention is diverted to lesser things, smaller things. But at due time, sometime or other, some incidents do take place to wake up a man. Any sudden happening or a challenge is a reminder of from the waking up from the slumber. Comfort is no progress. Discomfort is evolution. Challenge is evolution. Absolute comfort, physical, mental, economic, social, they don't find any progress in this. Man cannot progress in comfort. Which is why the Indian philosophy said, simple living and high thinking and such things are known to everybody. A man has been put to acid test in his youth itself. He has to surrender himself to the teacher. The teacher is not merely the teacher of some learning. He molds his character. He puts him through testing times. And that kind of a molding of character, it may take any time. We have stories of individual disciples taking different lengths of time to get a pass certificate from the teacher. Somebody got off in 10 years, somebody became old. The story of Uttamka, he became so old, grey hair, and yet he was only a student. Many students who came after him to his teacher were given a pass and sent away. They had to enter their household. The character molding, the building of a self-respect, and also a formulation of the ultimate values and goals of a human life. That formative years, he must be told why is he here, what has he to achieve. These values used to be inculcated in the man, embedded in him. Today no such system exists. Neither the parents nor the teachers nor the schools. There is nothing. The individual is not growing in the school. Whereas in those days, in the student days, the individual was coming to a completion. Then he leaves the school or his teacher's hermitage in a complete readiness to face the life with a keen knowledge of the awareness of the goal that he has to achieve and things like that. I don't mean to say that the entire population should be of this standard. It's not possible. But there are some pathfinders, leaders of the society, administrators of the society, learned men, famous artists, famous learned men, poets, thinkers, they used to be well trained like this. And they are the guidelines. And just the other rest of the society followed. So that was the greatest loss of India. That tradition is the loss of India. But today, money, wealth, unlimited money with no sense of charity, that has come to influence anybody in India. Well, God is always watchful, because any man keeps worshipping the God in spite of himself. So that is the one good thing. One day they will certainly receive a good lesson one day. What has been doing that he ought not to do. What he should have done, which he did not do. These things become final lessons to an individual one day. So God in His grace, He improves a man by punishment. Punishment is by grace and love only. There's a big difference. A court and police may punish a man without mercy toward the implementation of the law and the letter of the law. They don't even bother with the spirit of law. The letter of the law is implemented. God is in His own grace. Just out of love He punishes. He can punish a country, He can punish an individual. You see, most important thing, there are two kinds of laws in this universe. Man-made laws, region to region, country to country. There is a God-made law. All over it's valid. You may not find textbooks on it. There is no case law. If you have to look to a case law, there is ample evidence about it. There is enough case law also. But God-made laws are not transgressible. They cannot be violated. When man is free to violate, there is no watch. At the same time, the punishing authority is the God, not the police. Man-made laws are mostly defective also, which is why they keep amending. Every 10 years a law is amended. Some alteration, some provision is dropped, another provision is added. Then there is a case law cited in the courts. There is no such court. There is no such written law of the God. So the entire world today is waiting for the law. Where is the God-made law? What is it that all of us have violated? That kind of a lesson is a time in the near future, I think, in the near decades. God will teach us a lesson and point out to us, look, your law is not justice. Law is made to dispensate for the dispensation of justice. Justice ante న్యాయం, లా అంటే శాసనం, శాసనం న్యాయం కోసం. The dispensation of justice is the objective of law. And most of the laws, because of their man-made, and the men who made them themselves were not perfect. Maybe they were good intentions they had, so they have not worked well. Hence there are conflicting laws inside the same country, conflicting judgments under the same law in the same court. These things are happening. Now we are waiting for it's not doomsday, it is not the last day of judgment, and I don't use such words. But God is going to give us a reformation and a new lesson to learn. Because we have come a long way from barbaric forest dwelling to the most civilized life, organized life, building excellent communications. This is intellectual and physical progress. But then, by living in a different kind of external environs, we should not forget the spirit that existed in us long ago. To remind us about that spirit which we are forgetting, God will certainly interfere in His own kindness. It doesn't mean destruction. Maybe the treatment could be painful. But all that is in grace. That way, the teacher punishes, mother punishes. Punishment is, there is a sweet attitude, kindness and grace behind that. That is the kind of, if there is any way of knowing the destiny of mankind, one of the average available tools before us is astrology. There is no other tool. There is another tool inside you. If you can look into yourself, try to listen to him without talking. A man can listen to God's voice by learning how to be totally silent. Looking inside, he becomes eloquent in his own mind. He can never hear the message. In absolute inner silence only, the message can be heard. And message is not only personal. Message comes to a man for his good, for his neighbor's good also. God does not distinguish between he is my devotee, he is not my devotee. He is a Christian. God has no religion. We have religions. Various paths. If God were to have a religion of his own, and the world would have been different. That religion would have encompassed the welfare of animal world and the forest and the water and 5 elements also. He left the entire animal world, the bird, the 5 elements independent. He did not infuse ego into them. So water cannot commit a mistake. The air cannot commit a crime. They are the purest because they don't have the ego or a sense of ego. I am. So such a feeling is not there in these 5 elements. They are purest therefore. But the body is made up of these elements. And the culprit is only the ego inside this body. In spite of the purest of 5 elements entering into the body, going into the construction of the body, the ego is misleading the man. So there has been progress, we call it progress, scientific progress, the technological progress, civilizational progress and things like that. But there is distancing also happening place. All over, for a long time we have been distancing ourselves from values. And the speed with which the civilization and technology of the man progress on the material plane, it was slow till about 3 centuries ago. In the last 3 centuries it has gained a momentum. This momentum is acceleration. Now after an undue an acceleration of times and progress of the man, something in some direction, there has got to be a deceleration. The speed has to come to reduce. It has to reduce. Acceleration is only for a while, for a good cause. Without any planning, if there is an acceleration in the progress of technology and civilization, unguarded, unregulated, unguided. Acceleration is physical, material sciences and things that has been there. So I am sure there is going to be a deceleration. There will be a slower pace. Scientific technology will issue. Deceleration is security, safety. Always the walking man is the safest man than the man who rides a bicycle. Who is safer than a man who rides a car? Who is safer than a man who flies in a plane? Speed is not. There was a picture also made, speed. Sometimes, my grandchildren or some of my friends ask me to watch a film. I do it for more than 40 minutes. That's maximum. I cannot watch any TV more than 40 minutes. My patience gets exhausted. I may start even sweating. Watching a TV for a film more than that. And you have to put up with the advertisements and things. So speed. What he meant in, in every filmmaker has a message to give. I do watch some films occasionally, maybe at least 3 or 4 films in a year. Not voluntarily planning for it, but it just happens. I don't plan to see a picture. Somebody plans that I should see that. See, the speed is killing and it ends up in destruction of a very planned destruction. That's what he means in the entire picture. They go and ultimately hit something and drop off the destroying vehicle or something like that. So it's not possible to decelerate, not possible to control the speed. So they have to crash somewhere. They find the safest method of crashing. That is the speed of technology which you have gained, how to decelerate it without hurt, without getting destroyed. So that the God's hand will certainly help her to come down to slowly security with security and safety, without further indulgence in speedy progress of our scientific and technological sciences. And that deceleration is one thing. Change of our mood, our attitude to life is second and third. And learning some things which are badly needed for the good of entire mankind. Oh, we have lost sight of certain value system which is for the good of all mankind. God has to differ. There can't be any world preacher. Suppose God has to descend as an avatar. The basic question is God has to decide in which religion he should take. If he is born as a Christian, Hindus won't accept. If he is born as a Hindu, Christians won't accept. If he is born, he doesn't find a common solution. There is no DCM and LCM. So it's difficult for him to take an avatar, a version. So totally, perhaps we can infuse confusion into the God. So best thing, my prayers are to him. You be Jesus in the Christian's heart, be a Hindu in Hindu's heart, Vishnu, or you become Buddha in the Buddhist heart. Be Allah in your Muslim heart. But you can take this is your creation, infuse some confidence, teach us what is good for the entire mankind, simultaneously in the entire mankind. We have to pray for it. Krishna comes back for whose benefit? Not for the benefit of the Muslim. Jesus comes not for the... So, we have already branded him. This kind of a branding exercise, because it is a commercial activity that we all know. This is a good brand, that's a poor brand. Even a garment brand has a value, which is really not true. There cannot be any value in brand about it. We ascribe to it. So they make advantage of it. So we are in the end of a particular long chapter, and the recent pages of this chapter have been too fast, and they have to come down to normal speed. The chapter has to end. You have to have a new beginning of a new era. Another chapter in the history of mankind is necessary. We are waiting for that. That's my honest belief. I am not a great visionary or whatever, just ordinary man, but believing in the message of God, I wait for it. So all of us, we can pray for showing us what is a path that is good for all. I cannot, because I am a Hindu, can I pray for the destruction of Islam? It is stupid. It is his own making. He made it. So what is good for him and me? He should decide. He should give us the message. So this kind of a return of the God is a concept that people are waiting all the time. And now in the last few years, the waiting is accompanied by an anxiety and fear and expectations in many places. So we are at the end of a particular long chapter, which was a fast-moving story in this recent chapter, is coming to some conclusion in the few decades, immediate decades, and the new chapter starts with wisdom, teaching, and more of a better judgment about many things. This is what I am expecting. If planets can show us, interpret this kind of thing, this is true, what is going to happen is true, what I said must be true. It's my honest belief. And as to how and what is the methodology, what is the steps that he's going to, what are the steps he would take to change the history, what is that big milestone we are waiting for? That can be perhaps deciphered, that can be thought of from astrological viewpoint also. And by prayer and insight into the truth, present and the future truths, some facts also can be deciphered. If we should know the truth, and the facts of the truth as it happens in the open. Facts are happening in the open, people can notice facts, but we don't know the truth behind facts. So first we should try to understand the truth about the immediate future, and then think of the facts of our happenings that are going likely to take place in the near future. That is how we can think of it more, meditation, things like that. After all is said and done, we cannot wish for the destruction of anybody. On the other hand, we have to pray. It's our fundamental responsibility to pray for the good of all. So it's not a choice. Wishing the welfare of entire mankind is not a choice. It's a compulsion. It's only then any one of us is changed. And enmity or dislike should not find any place when we pray to the God. Rejection of anything. If we believe everything has been made by God, we cannot be choosy. I like this, I don't like that. We have to accept it because it's God's own creation. God is the master, God is the governor, God is the serpent, God is the partner in life, constant partner in life. He is our father, mother and servant. Because after a deep sleep in the night, who is waking you up? Why should there be a wake up at all after the long night of sleep? Something is wakeful. It's not the body that is waking up. Something else is waking up the man. And after waking up, what happened to the entire details of our life and the current activities during the sleep? How come we forgot all about it? Where were they at that time inside this? Suddenly all of them come back to the mind once you are wake up. So these are a very great mystery. During the sleep, He gave you a deep sleep by making you forget your cares and worries during that time. There is a master who is governing the condition of sleep. So that is why in Vedas I am talking about the messages in the Vedic mantras. Most of these things are found. Swapabhyo, Jagratbhyascha, these are all. Tishtadbhyo, Dhavatbhyascha, Namo Namah, in the Rudram. Wakeful state, thinking state, unthinking state, deep sleep state, dream state, and waking up, walking, sitting, looking up, looking down. Who is doing all this? Different conditions, different activity. So there is one watch constantly accompanying us in all these changes of states. He is the witness to your sleep. You are not the witness to your sleep. That's a very strange thing. Swapati, Jagrati, Tishtati, Dhavati. Who is that? And is he just a mute, helpless, silent witness, or is he an active witness? He has a judgment also. Yes, he has a judgment. He is not a helpless, mute witness. God is not only a witness, he is a judge also. And he is a protector also. But that way we have our right, and that's the only way we can help ourselves, by praying to him. His prayer could be any language. You can be speaking the Zoroastrian language or English or any other language of the world. Because ultimately the language of the God is silence. And it is translated into your mother tongue when you talk about it. So, silent prayer. They said, speaking to him, there is no compulsion that you have to speak to the God only in Veda mantras. If that is so, millions or billions of people, entire population has no access to it. It has a deep meaning, it has its own greatness. It doesn't matter. The secret, even in animal praise, many people don't know this. When a deer in a forest is being chased by a tiger, escapes somehow and hides itself, it is totally conscious of its dangerous condition. At that moment, even the subconscious level, there is no consciousness. Conscience is not there, consciousness is there. Conscience is an active judgment of, I am aware of the surroundings, I am in America today, I am going there today. This is conscience. Consciousness is common to all. In that consciousness, that poor animal prays for protection. The prayer is heard, prayer is not heard. Both ways, the God's grace is there on both. On the killing animal, the killed animal, both receive the same grace of the God. So people do not understand. When we say God is love and all that, how come tiger is killing an innocent animal? It could be the result of the karma of the both the jivas from the past, which has a background. This deer that is killed today was the tiger which killed the deer at that time, which is the tiger today. It could be, just logic is to be extended for our own satisfaction. We don't have to understand everything. There are many things we need not understand. Just leave it to them. So we have to pray for the good of all men. This is our primary responsibility, duty. So God is certainly nothing but love. He loves His own creation. If you construct, make a painting, a beautiful painting, don't you love it? It's your own making. He made this creation, has to love it. So God is love, obviously, because He made it. He has to love the creation. He has no choice. He loves His own making. So we don't have to question whether He is love or not. In childhood, we used to play God is love, love is blind, therefore God is blind. Yes, mischief says, and we're playing in the God. That's not so. Sometimes, playing is without responsibility, at random, like a child, is necessary for all of us. We should become, the child in you should never die, even when you are 90. The child should still be remaining inside you. That is good health. We have to learn the art of keeping the child alive. That's a good idea. And that helps us, that elevates us from the problematic, unhappy conditions of life. So which is why when you see the child of anyone's child, it's a pleasant sight. Because we wish to be a child, subconsciously. So, forgetting all about it. The great presence of God everywhere, in every incident, good, bad, everywhere. We have to. In all that is happening which is not good for the mankind, are we to accept it as the God's will? That is not the thing. It is the God's will working. God has not willed that we should destroy ourselves through atom bombs. That is not His wish. He allowed us to grow intellectually, but also in the process we have drifted away from the awareness of the ultimate truth. We forgot to wish well to the entire humanity. We should go back. All right, you make an atom bomb, but don't use it. You see, it's a deterrent. In Mahabharata, Arjuna was advised to obtain the most dreadful weapon of all, Pashupata, the power of Rudra, Shiva. Krishna advised him, you go for tapas, meditate on Lord Shiva, ask for the boon of that weapon. Then you will become more powerful than the enemy. That is necessary in a war, he says. When you enter into a battle or on a war with some enemy, you have to have in your stock a more powerful weapon which he doesn't have. And this happened. Arjuna went into tapas. He found the Lord. He tested him and gave the weapon. Only on one condition, never to use it. When he came back to Krishna, he said, he gave it to me with the condition that I should not use it. And Krishna said, owning the weapon is important, not using it. That has a deterrent effect on the enemy. So these are all, God has given us many things not to be used. Even this modern civilization and building up the nuclear stockpile is God's will, but they are not meant to be used. This is the analogy from Mahabharata. You can make weapons. If you have so much of time, money that you can spare, after taking care of all the poor people in the country, still you have so much money, you can build up a stockpile of hydrogen bombs, and never to use them. Because ultimately Krishna said, it may be deterrent, then why did he give this to me? He said, This is capable of destroying your enemy along with you. Which is why in his own interest, in your own interest, he asks you not. So it's too powerful to selectively function. It doesn't function selectively. So these are all matters, Puranas give us lots of advice, wonderful advice as a story. So I am sure we are on the threshold of a new chapter, and when we are going to get some kind of a new lesson, in what form, whether it is an incident or violence, or I don't think it's violence, it may not be destruction, but some wake-up call. It will make us more and more aware. And your Jupiter, in relationship with other planets, may show us the methodology of this teaching. In what form, in what language. Language of the incidents, the language of an experience, language of inner vision. So, anybody can teach mathematics. Mathematics can be taught in English, in Spanish, in French, even in Telugu of India, in Hindi. Subject is the same. In what language he is prepared to teach us some new lesson which is necessary for our good, for future, he knows. Let us try to decide. So my attitude to astrology, need of astrology is using it as a tool. I am trying to come back to this ultimate conclusion after all the general talk I made. Which is why I am doing all the talking, only myself. I would have listened to you if you had talked. Very interesting. There is the central theme of philosophy, Hindu philosophy, is the soul, which we call the individual in the body, consists of the same element which is in the God. But he has been enveloped in darkness. This getting enveloped in darkness, he has identified himself as an independent entity, not part of the ultimate truth. So he started behaving independently. I am a bird, I am a tiger, I am a man. I forgot about it. So there is, in Kashmir, yoga, Shiva Yoga. Kashmir has a wonderful tradition of Shiva Yoga. It is Shaivism, but yoga, it's more of a yoga science. It says, you know certain things, but you have forgotten about it. To remind you of what you know is not introducing any new subject into you. You already know, you have known it, but today you forgot about it. And you are made to remember what you had already known. Oh yes, this is known to me, you would say. To give us back the knowledge that was inherent in us, what has been forgotten. Abhijnana Shakuntalam undi kada. I am telling them about a poetic work of Kalidas. What is Abhijnana? Shakuntalam సరిపోతుంది కదా. శాకుంతలం అంటే సరిపోతుంది కదా. అభిజ్ఞాన శాకుంతలం ఏమిటి? బాగా చదివి అర్థమైతే అది ఎంతో అర్థం ఉంది. శకుంతల వివాహం చేసుకుంది, దుష్యంతుడు మర్చిపోయాడు. ఆ దుష్యంతుడికి అభిజ్ఞత కావాలి. తను తెలిసినవాడు తెలిసిన విషయాన్ని మర్చిపోవడం, మళ్ళీ జ్ఞాపకం చేసుకోవడం అభిజ్ఞానత. అందుకోసం అభిజ్ఞాన శాకుంతలం రాశారు కాళిదాసు. ఎంత అద్భుతమైన విషయం. ది స్టోరీ గోస్ దట్ a king went to a hermitage in the forest during his hunting. He met with a girl in that ashram, in that hermitage. They agreed with each other to get married. They married. There are other details which I don't want to waste time on, but it so happened this girl, even after the king left, the king promised, I will bring you back, take you to my home, my palace, as soon as possible, in a good time, after taking the permission of the sages here. The girl was sitting there, engrossed in the thoughts of that union. The few moments she has spent with the king, with divine love that she experienced and all that, engrossed in those sweet thoughts. She was sitting under a tree, and another great sage had come. She did not rise and receive him, engrossed in her thoughts. He is an angry type of a sage. There can be angry type and a peaceful type, all sages, but their jnana is there. They know they will not transfer the law of dharma. It's their nature. Like, tall, short, white, black and things like that. They are individual traits. So the sage custom, oh, you are thinking of your lover who had married you and gone away, and forget your basic duty of receiving me when I am walking into this ashram. So, already for this omission, which is not pardonable under the dharma, let that king forget you for a while. He would totally forget you. So under this curse, the king forgot. He lost all memory of having met this girl and married her and all that. So the message never came, calling her. So many things happened. And of course it is also related to another incident. They exchanged rings. Exchanging rings is not, this Christian fashion is very age old in all the cultures. So the ring that this girl gave to the king was also lost by the king due to this curse. Unless the same ring that was given by this girl to the king is restored to him, he gets a touch of it and feel of it, has a view of it, he would not remember this. So normally every curse contains a provision as to when it can terminate, as to how it can terminate. The curse is never given as a forever thing. Like in our contract, we enter into a contract of business. In the deed of the contract, a termination clause should also be there. Then it is a pakka contract. Otherwise it is binding on both of us. We cannot get rid of it. So kind of, whenever the ring is restored to me, you would remember. So by a quirk of fate, a kind of a very strange phenomenon, a fisherman found the fish, and the fish had swallowed this ring and things like that, many details. And the ring is presented back to the king. Oh, then this is the ring that given to me by Shakuntala. How come I forgot about it? He doesn't understand. So then immediately, what a man knows very well, thoroughly well, but suddenly there is a cloud, he forgets about it, and his memory is recalled, and he goes back to the awareness of that truth. Similarly, the man is nothing but God. He has forgotten about it, he has to come back to that awareness that he is a God, and then he is no bondage, he reaches the God. It's a philosophy. So Kashmir Shaivism wears around this kind of theory. This is the central theme of that is known as Abhijna. Kashmir Shaivism. Very interesting thing. I wish all my friends here from India go through this Kalidas also, enjoy the theme, the depth of, and richness of the poetry. There can't be any better way of spending the weekend. Not running to the beaches, that's no weekend at all. The weekend man can only go to the beach. Not a strong man. He should be self-sufficient in his own cottage, in his happiness. Everything is there in your home. No, don't have to. Leaving home is a pleasure. How can it be? Living in the home without any duty of office, spending time as you like, is spending time in the garden. It's more enjoyable. I want our people to read literature, share the beauty of the poetry, that ancient language. So God is trying to remind us of what we have forgotten. That is again the same thing. So that kind of a reminder bell is awaited. So like what we call ringtone and all that. There are modern words, So some bell has to chime somewhere. That chiming is a wake-up call to the mankind. No false standards in morals and things. Selfishness is totally useless, absolutely. It is junk. Selfishness is the weakest point in the man. And ignoring your neighbor's suffering, as though it doesn't concern you, that's a weakness. Out of fear, I don't look into my neighbor conditions, lest I should be involved. Man has to become bolder, stronger, and one with the entire community. So share everything, happiness. If you are, suppose you get a great honored by the university or something like that, happiness is doubled when it is shared with others. Sorrow is halved when it is shared with others. But happiness is multiplies when it is shared with others. Sorrow reduces when it is shared with others. Basic law. So sharing is necessary. God will certainly give us a good lesson. Thank you all. Take something, please. I'm happy I could spend some time with all of you these days.
We're very happy you could be here.
In my place, I am not the master of my time. People make me travel, they make me talk, they make me do. Nothing is on my own. Just come to be an accepted way of life. I don't worry about it and I don't regret it. As planned, things are taking place. Neutrality.
Guruji, we seek your blessings. There's a great deal of effort that's going on in Louisiana State. The beaches are being ruined and
The Gulf oil.
and today they are putting in another final effort.
It was a dirty thing that was hidden under the ground till the other day. It has been uncovered. It has, as of now, more than half the quantity has gone out. The pressure is reducing slowly. It's not by BP's effort that it is going to be capped. The pressure is reducing in another 10 days automatically. And there is a way, you can set the oil on fire on the water. It gets burnt out. For a while it looks like a violent fire. The best thing, disposal of any oil, is to set it on fire. There is no other reason. Otherwise it's not degradable by any shape. Oil has to be burnt. It vanishes into air. Then 2 months later, 3 months later, the air can be purified. As physically it's present. But God is very kind to us. It has not exceeded a particular limit. I noticed that. It was on 20th April. I noticed it. I thought about it. It could have been more serious also. It has not killed anybody except a few fish. But if you set it on fire, on this spot for about 10 days, the life in the sea waters would die. But a fresh life will start within a few months. And the fumes in the burning oil may pollute the atmosphere for a few days. Within 2 months it will be absorbed. And any amount of poisonous release is neutralized by these elements, the water and the air, which is why we are living. We have damaged the purity of water and air in every way possible. But yet we are breathing healthy air in many parts of the globe. The greatest purifier is the air and water. Any polluted air would have killed the lungs. It has not done. Many people are living normally, near normally. It should not become a political subject between the countries, how to punish BP and things like that. That should not be the subject. They will find a way. Probably fire will destroy the oil and pressure is now reduced. maybe another 10, 11 days. It's bound to. But that's a good lesson. The fossil fuel is not meant to be released from the ground and used for us. It is a fossil that has taken shape in the process of baking by nature over a period of a million years. Not 10,000 or 1 lakh years. Over a million years the fossil has taken the shape of oil. It's a hydrocarbon. Once it is burnt, hydrocarbon vanishes. It's not a permanent thing. Anyway, we are already protected from many evil effects of that. We are being protected. It will find a solution in nature itself. A man cannot do much about it. So, but the Bermuda Triangle, has anybody given an explanation? But all the evidence that they are presenting us should be true. One explanation is a distorted magnetic field, which is not in keeping with the core of the earth. From North Pole to South Pole there is a magnet. It is out of tune with that. A solid magnet lies under the ground there. It is sometimes attracting a slow motion steel material, something like that. And at an optimal speed. It will be a higher speed than that, higher level than that, nothing is happening. So when it is actually touching that space above this ground magnet, they are being dropped off. This happened. There is one explanation. From North Pole to South Pole in the core of the earth, in a molten state, consisting mainly of iron and hydrocarbons, that liquid form of a rod-like thing, very thick, by rotation of the earth, the central core of the earth from North to South Pole is working like a magneto or like a dynamo. The field is generated by this running dynamo, and that field is extending beyond the surface of the earth, which is going up to some hundreds of miles above the earth. That field is protecting us from dangerous attacks from outside, with asteroids and things like that. That field is a permanent thing. And what happens to that? That's a big, separate subject on its own. But there is a protection from the dangerous. Suppose what is the diameter of the earth that is at the center is about 25 miles on the equator. And the radius of that, how much? Is about 7.5 miles. Radius. So we are 7,500 miles away from the core of the earth on surface. How much of this surface is solid like us, like we see it? Hardly 100 miles. Out of 7,500 miles, less than 100 miles is the surface of the earth, which is our sustenance. We find water in it, we find the plant life in it, everything. 100 miles is like a thin skin of a large apple. We are looking at that. Anyway, things will be all right. We are being protected in 1,000 ways. Every day, the amount, if you can notice how we are being protected, mind-boggling. There are many wonders of the world. Anyway, we have a right to be protected because we are created by God. He has a responsibility to protect us because He created us. We did not create ourselves. There is a fine argument. We can demand protection. You created us. I did not create myself. Having created, we have to protect us. That's all. You will accept this argument. Anyway, అందరూ కాస్త తీసుకొని ప్లీజ్ eat something. Mr. James is coming regularly. I am able to spend some time with him, for which I am happy. Mr. James and his friends. Good. ఇంకేమైనా వచ్చారా?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I came with Jim to your ashram, your home, about 9 years ago.
You came there?
And yes, and with a group, it was a tour.
Yes.
Yeah, and I met you at that time.
Really?
Yeah, it's cool. Anyway, I remember you always very fondly since that time.